You know, that specific feeling when you're sitting at a poker table
Oh, yeah.
and you've got this massive stack of chips, right?
Yeah.
You're dictating all the betting, pushing everyone else around. You just feel like entirely in control.
Right, you think you own the table.
Exactly. But you don't realize the quiet player sitting across from you is just letting you inflate the pot. They are absorbing all your aggression because they've been holding a royal flush the entire time.
Yep. And when they finally flip those cards over,
It's game over.
yeah.
You realize your control was just a complete illusion.
In a matter of seconds, your massive stack of chips is entirely gone, and you're just left wondering how you misread the table so badly. It is, well, it's the ultimate reality check.
It really is. And that is the exact heartbreak we are looking at today. So, welcome to this deep dive. Today is Saturday, July 4, 2026, and we are unpacking the dramatic end to Canada's historic run at the 2026 World Cup.
Yeah, a run that came to a pretty crashing halt.
It really did. A 3-0 loss to Morocco in the round of 16 down in Houston.
The final scoreline has, it's left an entire nation stunned. But the real mystery here is how that scoreline actually materialized after a game that started so incredibly differently.
Right, because if you watch the first half, you wouldn't believe it ended 3-0.
Oh.
So to figure that out, we are pulling from a massive stack of sources today.
A lot to get through.
Oh, totally. We've got tactical breakdowns and match statistics from Squawka. We're diving into the raw, intense fan reactions over on the Our Canada Soccer Reddit page.
Always a fun place to be after a loss.
Honestly, it was wild in there. And we're also pulling in some fiery pundit commentary from Give Me Sport and KE's Q. Our mission for today's deep dive is to really deconstruct the mechanics of that illusion of control.
Right, how a match that looked so promising for one team turned into an absolute rout for the other.
Exactly. And then we're going to analyze the intense psychological and public relations debate that exploded immediately after the final whistle.
Oh, the press conference.
Yeah, the press conference. Sparked by a coach claiming he'd, quote, rather be the team that just got eliminated.
Which is quite a statement.
It really is. So, okay, let's unpack this.
To understand the shock of that final 3-0 score, we really have to deconstruct the first 45 minutes of the game.
Right.
Because it is a textbook example of how a team can dominate the optics of a match while completely failing to generate actual leverage.
Yeah, the optics heavily favored Canada. They came out absolutely flying.
They did.
Putting just intense pressure on a heavily favored Moroccan side, who, by the way, is ranked number 6 in the world.
Number 6, yeah. And Canada is, what, 30th?
Yeah, exactly. So the eye test told you Canada was imposing their will. But the tactical numbers from Squawka, they tell an even wilder story. You were looking at these before we started. What stood out to you?
Honestly, the disparity in penalty box penetration is staggering. In the first half alone, Canada outshot Morocco 4-1.
Wow.
But the metric that really matters here is touches in the opposition box.
Right.
Canada had 13 touches inside Morocco's penalty area. Morocco had 1.
13-1. That is, that's crazy. You have a team ranked 30th in the world pressing the 6th-ranked team deep into their own territory.
Exactly. And they were creating real danger. Tani Oluwaza even forced a brilliant top-quality save from the Moroccan keeper, Yassine Bounou, right in the 11th minute.
Right, so early on, Canada is totally dictating the terms of engagement.
They are, but there is this massive external disruption happening at the same time. And it's courtesy of the English referee, Michael Oliver.
Oh, man. The refereeing in this game.
Yeah, the report from Morocco World News details that Oliver handed out 6 yellow cards in just the first 45 minutes.
6 yellow cards in one half.
Yeah. 4 of those went to Morocco, putting their star Achraf Hakimi and basically their entire midfield on a disciplinary tightrope. And then Canada picked up 2.
See, the sources point out this is a massive contrast to Morocco's previous match against the Netherlands.
Right. Very different vibe.
Completely.
Yeah.
They had a Brazilian referee who let a highly physical, tough game just sort of flow naturally. But here, the game is being chopped up into tiny, fragmented pieces.
It completely altered the tactical geometry of the game because every time Canada built up a head of steam, right, and got into transition, a foul would be called.
It's kind of like, imagine trying to do this fluid, rhythmic dance routine, but the DJ just keeps hitting the pause button every 10 seconds.
That's a perfect way to describe it.
But wait, I have a question about this. Because if Canada is dominating possession and spending all this time living in Morocco's penalty box, shouldn't a whistle-happy referee actually benefit them?
You would think so, yeah.
Like, shouldn't all those stoppages have resulted in dangerous free kicks or penalties for Canada? Why are the sources suggesting this actually hurt Canada more than Morocco?
Well, what's fascinating here is the mechanical effect of a referee blowing the whistle constantly against a high-pressing team.
Okay, walk me through that.
Think of it like throwing a life raft to a drowning defense. When Canada wins the ball back quickly, Morocco's defense is out of position.
Right, scrambling.
Exactly. And that chaotic 3 to 4 second window is when Canada's speed is most lethal. But when the referee blows the whistle for a foul, the play goes dead.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, that gives Morocco 10 to 15 seconds to catch their breath, jog back, and completely rebuild their defensive wall.
So the whistle basically bails them out. It completely neutralizes the chaos Canada is trying to create.
Exactly. And it creates this fatal false sense of security for Canada.
Because they feel like they're in control.
Right. They felt like they were dominating because they were winning the physical battles and forcing all these fouls. They were exerting massive amounts of physical and emotional energy pressing high up the pitch.
But because they couldn't turn those 13 box touches into an actual goal, they were basically just emptying their gas tank for a moral victory.
Precisely. They spent 45 minutes trying to break down a brick wall with a hammer. They made a lot of noise, but the wall is still standing.
And elite teams are incredibly patient, aren't they?
Extremely patient. Morocco was just weathering the storm, absorbing the disjointed rhythm, and waiting for Canada's legs to get heavy.
So going into the locker room at 0-0, despite all that Canadian pressure, that was basically exactly the lifeline Morocco needed.
It shifted the psychological burden entirely onto Canada. I mean, they dominated the half, but had absolutely nothing on the scoreboard to show for it.
And that psychological shift is what throws the door wide open for the second half.
It really does.
Because the tactical pivot Morocco executes coming out of that locker room is absolutely clinical. We know from the sources that Morocco's coach, Mohamed Awabi, was visibly frustrated on the touchline during that messy first half.
Oh yeah, he was not happy. He saw his team playing reactionary soccer, making needless errors, and just getting dragged into a physical dogfight rather than playing their technical game.
And Morocco also had to deal with a massive early blow, too. Their standout midfielder, Ismail Saibari, who, by the way, just signed a huge deal with Bayern Munich.
Incredible talent.
Yeah, already had 3 goals in the tournament. He goes down with a hamstring injury at the 22-minute mark.
And he has to be subbed off.
Right. So from a fan's perspective, you see a Bayern Munich-level talent leave the pitch, and you assume the opponent just gained a massive advantage.
Naturally. But that assumption really highlights the difference between a good team and an elite team.
How so?
While elite teams possess a depth of tactical intelligence that allows them to pivot seamlessly, Saibari's absence didn't weaken Morocco. It actually paved the way for Azzedine Ounahi to completely take over the game's tempo.
Wow.
It was a masterclass in halftime adjustments. Morocco recognized that Canada was overextending themselves, and they decided to exploit the space they were leaving behind.
And the unraveling happened so fast. I mean, it starts just 5 minutes into the second half, minute 50.
Right, the turning point.
Luc de Fougerolles commits a foul just outside the box. And this is where the mechanics of a set piece really come into play. Achraf Hakimi steps up to take the free kick.
And everyone in the stadium, including the Canadian defensive wall, expects him to shoot.
Of course. I mean, Hakimi is known for his striking ability from that range. The Canadian wall braces for the impact of a direct shot.
But instead of shooting, Hakimi plays a clever, low-disguised pass to an unmarked Ounahi who just curls it into the bottom corner.
Unbelievable. 1-0 Morocco.
It was a training ground routine, executed flawlessly under immense pressure. And notice the efficiency there.
Yeah.
Morocco didn't need 13 touches in the box and a high physical press. They just needed to manipulate Canada's defensive structure once.
He used Hakimi's reputation as a decoy to create a completely open shooting lane for Ounahi.
Exactly.
And that goal completely flips the script. Now Canada has to chase the game.
Yep.
They had to push more men forward to find an equalizer, which means they are leaving massive oceans of space in their defensive half.
And Morocco lands the knockout blow in the 82nd minute through a ruthless counterattack.
Just brutal.
This is where we see the mechanics of transition play at its most lethal.
So, Real Madrid's Brahim Diaz drives into the right side of the box. He draws 2 Canadian defenders toward him. He completely collapses their defensive structure.
Right.
And then he perfectly lays the ball back to Ounahi, who fires a pile driver into the top corner. 2-0.
That is that 3-second chaos window we were talking about earlier. But this time, Morocco is the one exploiting it.
Right, they turn the tables.
Diaz uses his gravity to pull the defenders out of position, and Unahi arrives late into the empty space. It is clinical execution.
And just to twist the knife, in the 98th minute, deep into stoppage time, Soufiane Rahimi scores on another lightning-fast break to make it 3-0.
Yeah. From a 0-0 gridlock at halftime to a 3-0 rout, Morocco demonstrated exactly how you punish a team that chases the game and loses their tactical discipline.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, because the reaction from the Canadian fan base to this collapse is visceral.
Oh, visceral is a good word for it.
If you dive into the Our Canada Soccer Reddit thread, it is not just disappointment. It is directed, tactical anger aimed squarely at the manager, Jesse Marsch.
They were not holding back.
No. One fan wrote that Marsch seemingly, quote, folded like a wet towel after conceding that first goal.
The forums are dissecting every touchline decision, and the frustration is really rooted in a perceived lack of response from the bench.
I gotta say, I am struggling to understand Marsch's logic here, too.
Yeah.
Because Canada loses their momentum entirely after that Unahi goal in the 50th minute.
Right.
The game is slipping away. But Marsch waits until the 63rd minute to make his first substitution, bringing on Sile Lauren.
A long 13 minutes.
Yeah. If you are watching your team lose their grip on a knockout match, why wait 13 minutes to make a change? Is he just freezing under the lights? Or is there a strategic reason a coach sits on his hands in that scenario?
It is the ultimate manager's dilemma, and it often looks like freezing to the fans. But from Marsch's internal perspective, he is likely looking at the starting 11 that absolutely dominated the first 45 minutes.
Okay, so he's remembering the good times.
Yeah, he trusts them. He knows they have the quality to create chances because he literally just watched them do it.
Right.
There is this psychological reluctance to disrupt the chemistry of a lineup that was playing so well. It's akin to the sunk cost fallacy. He's invested so much in this game plan, he hopes it will organically correct itself.
But waiting that long against a team like Morocco is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
I mean, the game state has changed.
Precisely. The tactical reality is that Canada's players were exhausted from the first half press.
Right, their legs were gone.
As the Reddit fans pointed out, it wasn't just the lack of substitutions, it was the heavy legs leading to unforced errors on the pitch that really killed them.
The fans highlighted some really specific painful moments, too. Like, they were calling out Jonathan David for his poor first touches.
Yeah, noting how often attacks broke down at his feet.
Exactly.
And they specifically dissected the build-up to the second goal. That deadly Brahim Diaz counterattack didn't happen in a vacuum.
Right, it started with a mistake.
It started because Jacob Schaffelberg forced a highly telegraphed pass that was easily intercepted by the Moroccan midfield. When you push your fullbacks forward and commit bodies to the attack against a team that excels in transition, your ball security has to be flawless. You cannot turn the ball over cheaply in the middle of the park.
Because elite teams punish those mistakes instantly.
Instantly.
You don't get a second chance to recover. Canada played with immense heart, but, heart doesn't stop Brahim Diaz in a 4-on-2 counterattack.
Oh, it doesn't.
Execution stops him.
Heart dictates the effort, but execution dictates the scoreboard.
That clash between playing with heart and executing on the scoreboard brings us to the most controversial part of this entire deep dive.
Here we go.
Because the contrast between the brutal reality of that 3-0 scoreline on the pitch and the narrative the Canadian manager tried to spin in the post-match press conference has created a massive public relations disaster.
The post-match comments have completely overshadowed the tactical breakdown in the broader media landscape.
Let me read Jesse Marsch's exact quotes from the presser, as reported by Give Me Sport. Imagine sitting at a microphone after getting eliminated by 3 goals and saying this.
Okay.
We were the much better team in the first half. What a privilege our fans have had to root a team on like this. That goes after the game, that doesn't play defensive, that shows that they can be good. I'd rather be us than them. As good as Morocco is, I'd rather be us. I'm really proud of our guys.
Wow, I'd rather be us than them. That is an incredibly dangerous sentiment to voice publicly after a heavy defeat in knockout football.
The backlash was instantaneous. I mean, Fox Sports pundit Alexei Laos fired back immediately on the broadcast saying, Canada's going home, Morocco is going on, so I would rather be the team that won.
Hard to argue with that logic.
Right. And online, the fans were brutal. They called Marsch's, quote, a loser mentality and delusional.
Not what you want to hear from your fan base.
Not at all. We even saw U.S. men's national team fans jumping into the fray, specifically gloating that they were thankful their federation hired Mauricio Pochettino instead of Marsch.
Yeah, it became an absolute lightning rod for criticism because it touches on the fundamental philosophy of competitive sports.
It really makes you wonder about leadership in general.
How so?
Well, think about it for yourself. If you blow a massive client pitch at work, like you lose the account to a rival firm, but your team prepared really hard and gave a great presentation, do you stand up in the boardroom and tell your team, I'd rather be us than the guys who won the contract?
Probably not the best strategy to keep your job.
Right. At what point does protecting team morale cross the line into toxic positivity and just a total refusal to face reality?
Well, if we connect this to the bigger picture, to understand why Marsch chose that specific messaging, you have to look at the internal ecosystem of the Canadian team versus the external expectations of the modern fan.
Okay, break down that internal ecosystem for us. What is Marsch seeing that makes him say something so provocative?
Internally, Marsch is looking at the objective reality of Canada's tournament context. This was a historic run.
True.
Prior to this tournament, Canada had never even won a senior men's World Cup match. Here, they reached the round of 16 for the very first time.
They did.
They secured an epic 1-0 win over South Africa in the group stage. And perhaps most importantly, they did all of this with their absolute biggest star, Alphonso Davies, only playing 15 total minutes in the entire tournament due to injury.
That is a huge detail.
He didn't even see the pitch against Morocco.
Losing a talent like Davies is like, it's like a basketball team losing their franchise point guard for the playoffs.
Exactly. So from Marsch's perspective, he is managing a young developing squad that shattered historical expectations, proved they belong on the world stage without their talisman, and genuinely outplayed a top 6 team for 45 minutes.
Okay, I see where he's coming from.
He is playing the long game for the next World Cup cycle in 2030. He wants his players to leave the tournament feeling like they are on the precipice of greatness, not dwelling on a late-game collapse. He is intentionally falling on the sword to protect their confidence.
But the PR disaster happens because the audience listening to that press conference isn't just his players.
No, it's everyone.
It's a fan base that has evolved faster than the manager's rhetoric.
That is the core of the disconnect right there. We are witnessing a clash in organizational maturity.
What do you mean by that?
Marsch is still communicating like the manager of a Tier 3 underdog program, celebrating the effort, talking about the privilege of participating, and framing a good first half as a moral victory. But the Canadian fan base has outgrown that mentality.
Yeah, they are acting like a Tier 1 fan base.
Yeah.
I mean, if you pay thousands of dollars to fly to Houston, or you are sitting in a bar in Toronto devastated that the run is over, you don't want to hear that the coach is happy because the team went after it.
Exactly. The modern fan demands analytical accountability.
Right.
When a Tier 1 powerhouse loses 3-0, the manager sits at the microphone and says, "We failed to execute our set-piece defending, our transition passing was sloppy in the second half, and that is on me to fix."
Right. They take responsibility for the mistakes.
By claiming he'd rather be the loser, Marsch unintentionally signaled to the fans that moral victories are an acceptable substitute for actual victories. He alienated a fan base that wants to see a culture of ruthless winning, not a culture of silver linings.
The fans on Reddit aren't debating the effort. They're debating the late substitutions and the telegraphed passes.
Yep, they want tactical answers.
And the manager gave him emotional spin. It's a trap. A lot of leaders fall into confusing the quality of the effort with the reality of the result.
Very common trap.
Yes, the effort in the first 45 minutes was A+, but the execution in the final 45 was an F. You cannot use the former to excuse the latter in elite competition.
As the Canadian program looks toward the future, managing those rising expectations and upgrading that internal culture is going to be Jesse Marsch's biggest challenge.
For sure.
They are no longer the plucky underdogs who are just happy to participate. They are a team that expects to compete and advance. And the language of leadership has to evolve to match that new, unforgiving standard.
So let's recap the journey we've taken on this deep dive.
We covered a lot of ground.
We really did. We started by deconstructing Canada's statistical illusion in the first half, those 13 touches in the box that ultimately amounted to nothing, disrupted by a referee whose whistle actually allowed Morocco to continuously reset their defensive block.
Right, the DJ pausing the music.
Exactly. Then we broke down Morocco's clinical tactical execution in the second half, highlighting how they used decoy set pieces and exploited the chaotic transition windows to punish Canada's tired legs and unforced errors. And finally, We unpack the fierce debate over Jesse Marsch's controversial media spin, revealing the growing pains of a fan base that demands accountability while their coach is still trying to sell them a moral victory.
It's a perfect case study in how complex the mechanics of modern sports have become, both tactically on the pitch and psychologically in the press room.
Absolutely. Before we wrap up, based on everything we've looked at today, what is the final thought you want to leave the listener with?
This raises a vital question about growth, and it echoes through all these sources. For any rising organization, whether it's a national soccer team, a disruptive tech startup, or a local business expanding into a new market, there is a phase where simply showing up and competing with the heavyweights is celebrated.
Right.
It's the happy to be here mindset where you celebrate the effort and trust the process. But here is the thought to mull over. At what point does that exact mindset, the very culture that built your foundation and got you to the big stage, actually become the psychological barrier that prevents you from developing the ruthless, cold-blooded edge required to become a true champion?
Wow. At what point does celebrating the journey prevent you from arriving at the destination?
Exactly.
That is a fantastic question. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive. To you listening, keep questioning the narratives behind the numbers. And the next time you find yourself holding all the chips at the poker table, just remember to check if the person across from you is quietly waiting to drop a royal flush. We will catch you next time.